For decades, Robin Gibb of the Bee Gees has been a voice that could pierce hearts, a performer whose melodies seemed timeless, almost untouchable. But behind that iconic voice was a man wrestling with questions nobody dared to ask aloud about himself, his family, and the choices that fame demanded. Fans adored him, music critics hailed him, and yet, some truths were always hidden, locked away behind decades of smiles, interviews, and chart-topping hits. At 61, Robin finally broke his silence. Finally, he admitted what many had long suspected, what fans had whispered about in hushed tones, trying to understand the private struggles of the man who seemed larger than life. Fame, fortune, and family had painted a picture of perfection, but the reality was far more human, far more fragile. This revelation isn't just gossip. It's the story of a man facing the weight of expectations, of guilt, of private regrets that even the loudest applause could never erase. It's the story of Robin Gibb as we've never truly known him: vulnerable, honest, and finally, unapologetically real. Tonight, we're peeling back the curtain on decades of silence to reveal the man behind the music, and what he finally admitted will leave you seeing Robin Gibb in an entirely new light. Robin Gibb was never just a voice on the radio. From the moment he and his brothers formed the Bee Gees, he became part of a sound that defined generations, a harmony that seemed untouchable, and a persona that exuded confidence and charm. But behind the glittering stage lights and the endless applause, Robin quietly wrestled with a reality that few truly understood. Fame, fortune, and the love of millions could not shield him from the inner conflicts he carried for decades. Growing up with Barry and Morris, Robin felt the pull of both responsibility and expectation. The Gibb brothers' rise was meteoric, but it was also suffocating. Robin learned early that his talent brought with it not just adoration but constant pressure. Every note he sang, every high harmony he hit, carried the weight of public expectation. Fans saw perfection. He often felt exposed, vulnerable, and haunted by questions he could not voice. The truth was that as successful as they became, that pressure never eased, it only evolved. Family dynamics added another layer of complexity. The Bee Gees were a unit, but Robin often struggled with his place within it. Maurice and Barry were brilliant in their own ways, and while love was abundant, there was also constant comparison, a silent tension threading through their successes and failures alike. Robin's perfectionism made him both a driving force behind the band's success and a man tormented by the fear of not measuring up, of letting others down, of failing to meet expectations, both his own and everyone else's. Robin's health, something he only spoke about decades later, carried its own shadow. While the world saw a man full of energy and charisma on stage, behind the scenes he battled fatigue, illness, and moments of fragility that cameras never captured. Fame demanded he mask these struggles, perform regardless of how his body or mind felt. Every smile was a mask. Every upbeat interview concealed days when he wondered if he could continue carrying both the music and the pressure it demanded. Then came the truth he finally revealed at 61. It was not scandalous or shocking in the tabloid sense, but it was profoundly human, vulnerable, honest, and long overdue. Robin admitted the doubts, fears, and regrets he had harbored quietly for years, the ones fans had suspected but never confirmed. He spoke about moments when he felt the crushing weight of expectation, times when he questioned whether the music and fame had come at too high a cost. He revealed private vulnerabilities hidden even in the brightest spotlight, the loneliness that persisted even in the midst of adoring crowds, and the quiet guilt that accompanied the knowledge that success often required sacrifice, not just for him, but for those closest to him. For fans who had grown up with his voice, the revelation was shocking yet strangely comforting. It humanized a man they had long idolized, reminding everyone that even legends carry pain. Even icons wrestle with doubt, and even the brightest stars burn with silent struggles. His admission did not diminish his accomplishments. Instead, it added depth and humanity to a figure who had spent a lifetime performing for the world. What makes this revelation particularly poignant is that it came at a stage in life when honesty mattered more than perfection. At 61, Robin no longer felt the need to maintain an image of invulnerability. The years of silence, the carefully curated persona, and the endurance of both personal and professional struggles culminated in a moment of truth, a man revealing that beneath the fame and music, he was, at heart, just as human as the millions who admired him. Robin Gibb's story is not just about a legendary career. It's about the cost of that career, the hidden burdens behind the music, and the quiet strength required to endure decades under public scrutiny. His voice, though iconic and timeless, carries decades of unseen struggles. And the confession at 61 gave the world a glimpse of the man behind the music, a man navigating life, love, and purpose in his own imperfect, profoundly human way. Even with a career that seemed untouchable, Robin Gibb's personal life was a battlefield few ever glimpsed. Fame wrapped around him like a gilded cage. The world saw sold-out concerts, chart-topping hits, and the smooth charm of a star in his element. But behind the smiles and perfectly harmonized performances, there were moments of profound isolation. He had everything millions dreamt of, yet he carried an invisible weight that made even the brightest spotlight feel suffocating. Family, which should have been his anchor, often became a source of silent struggle. The closeness that fans adored masked complex dynamics beneath. Robin's relationships with Barry and Morris were loving, yes, but layered with unspoken tensions and occasional friction. The pressure to keep the Bee Gees at the pinnacle of success sometimes overshadowed the simple joys of brotherhood. Every decision, every creative disagreement carried emotional stakes far higher than the public could ever imagine. For Robin, loyalty to the band and love for his brothers often collided with his personal needs, leaving him in a constant tug-of-war between duty and desire. Outside the family, maintaining personal relationships proved equally challenging. Romantic life under the gaze of millions is rarely private, and Robin experienced it firsthand. Every public appearance, every interview, every paparazzi snapshot could turn love into speculation, intimacy into a headline. The pressures of fame infiltrated even the most personal aspects of his life. Moments that should have been private, safe, and comforting often felt performative. As if every interaction carried the weight of public judgment, the very act of loving became complicated, layered with expectation, scrutiny, and the unspoken fear that anything vulnerable could be exploited. Health issues added yet another layer of challenge. While fans admired his stamina on stage, Robin endured fatigue, illness, and the quiet toll of years of relentless touring and recording. Fame demanded perfection and energy, regardless of how his body or mind felt. Every smile, every perfectly timed note was underwritten by the effort to push through exhaustion, to mask pain, and to meet expectations he had long set for himself and others. For a man who gave so much to his art, there were countless unseen moments of struggle, when even getting through a day required more courage than anyone could imagine. Despite these challenges, Robin never stopped performing. Music remained both a sanctuary and a crucible. It was the one space where he could channel his inner turmoil into something meaningful, where pain could transform into beauty. Yet the act of singing was also a reminder. The very passion that sustained him also demanded vulnerability. And that vulnerability was always exposed to the world. Robin had to learn to navigate the fine line between authenticity and survival, between sharing enough to connect with others and protecting enough to endure himself. At 61, when he finally admitted the truths many had long suspected, it wasn't a dramatic confession for the world's entertainment. It was a release for himself. He spoke about the subtle pressures, the emotional compromises, and the hidden loneliness that decades of fame imposed. He acknowledged the complex web of relationships, the sacrifices he made, and the personal moments he often had to forego to maintain the life he built. These were truths that didn't make headlines. They made sense of the man behind the music, the voice that had carried millions, and the person who had silently carried so much himself. What resonates most about Robin's admission is its humanity. It's the reminder that even those who seem untouchable, who appear larger than life, face the same fears, doubts, and heartbreaks as anyone else. It's a testament to resilience, not the flashy kind that fills stadiums, but the quiet, persistent endurance that keeps someone going when no one is watching. His story underscores that fame, for all its glory, can be lonely, complicated, and emotionally exhausting. Yet Robin endured it, continued to perform, and eventually chose honesty over perfection. Through it all, Robin Gibb remained committed to his art, to his family, and to the legacy he and his brothers created. His confessions at 61 revealed not weakness, but the courage to embrace truth, to acknowledge struggles that had persisted for decades, and to finally reconcile with the man he was beneath the public persona. The life of Robin Gibb, admired for decades for talent and charisma, is now also understood as a story of vulnerability, endurance, and the quiet strength it takes to carry fame without losing oneself. Even as Robin Gibb achieved fame that most could only dream of, a quiet battle raged within him. The world admired his voice, celebrated his charm, and revered him as one-third of one of the most iconic bands in history. Yet behind the music and the accolades, Robin wrestled with questions that fame alone could never answer. He often wondered if success had come at too high a price, if every note he sang, every smile he wore, and every tour he endured had slowly hollowed him from the inside. Regret was never loud. It didn't appear in headlines or interviews. It lived in moments of reflection, late at night, in empty dressing rooms, on long flights between cities, or in the still silence of his home. He thought about opportunities missed, relationships strained, and words left unsaid. Fame offered applause, money, and recognition, but it also demanded sacrifices that were impossible to measure. Each decision carried weight, each compromise a reminder that life in the spotlight was rarely fair or forgiving. Robin often carried guilt, even in areas beyond his control. The pressures of maintaining the band, the expectations of fans, and the challenges of personal relationships frequently collided, leaving him torn. He loved his brothers fiercely, yet conflicts and misunderstandings occasionally strained that bond. He tried to shield those he loved from the pressures of fame, yet the spotlight often reached where it shouldn't, testing even the closest relationships. Even in moments of joy, There was an undercurrent of tension, a sense that something precious was always at risk. The emotional burden of fame was not limited to family or friendships. Robin also struggled with his own sense of identity and self. The world knew him as a performer, as part of the Bee Gees, as a voice that defined decades. But behind that identity was a man who questioned himself, who wondered if he was enough outside the spotlight. Even surrounded by fans and accolades, he felt the loneliness of being seen yet not fully understood. The expectations placed on him, both by others and himself, often felt like chains. Invisible but heavy. Health concerns quietly compounded these struggles. Performing while managing fatigue, stress, and the subtle pressures of aging took a toll that few witnessed. Robin knew that every performance, every recording session, demanded energy and perfection. Yet there were days when simply maintaining composure required immense strength. Fame required him to project vitality even when he felt depleted, and this constant balancing act between appearance and reality became an emotional strain. Yet amidst the challenges, Robin never stopped creating music. His art was his anchor, a lifeline through the storms of fame, pressure, and personal doubt. Through his lyrics and harmonies, he translated the private struggles he could not voice publicly. Music allowed him to process pain, confront loneliness, and connect with a world that adored him even when they couldn't understand the depth of his experiences. Every note, every melody, carried fragments of his inner life, hidden yet palpable for those willing to listen closely. When he finally admitted the truths many had suspected, it was a release more than a revelation. It wasn't sensational or dramatic, it was profoundly human. He acknowledged the guilt, the doubts, and the long-held fears that had shadowed decades of success. In speaking openly, Robin bridged the gap between his public persona and private reality, reminding the world that even icons struggle with vulnerability, that even the strongest voices carry silent battles, and that fame, no matter how golden, cannot shield one from human emotion. This honesty reshaped the way people could see him. Robin Gibb was no longer only a performer, a legend, or a timeless voice. He became a man who endured, who wrestled with imperfection, who confronted regret with courage, and who allowed himself the rare, liberating act of truth. The vulnerability he revealed did not diminish his legacy, it enriched it, adding depth to the brilliance of the artist and humanity to the myth. Robin's story reminds us that even in lives that seem flawless from the outside, the internal struggles are real, the battles unseen, and the endurance quiet yet monumental. Fame may celebrate success, but only honesty, vulnerability, and courage reveal the soul behind it. Robin Gibb carried decades of invisible weight, yet he continued to sing, to love, and to endure, and in doing so, he showed that true strength often lies in acknowledging the struggle, not hiding from it. Robin Gibb's voice has always been more than music. It is memory, emotion, and a reflection of the struggles and triumphs of a man who lived life under the brightest spotlight. Decades of performing, recording, and touring shaped not just his career but also his character. What made him timeless wasn't only the harmony of the Bee Gees or the unforgettable melodies he created, it was his ability to endure, if to transform private pain into shared art, and to remain human even when the world elevated him to legendary status. Fans often assumed that fame meant a perfect life, that success automatically brought happiness. But Robin's story reminds us that public acclaim does not erase private hardship. The confidence he exuded on stage, the charm that captivated millions, and the enduring voice that defined generations all coexisted with loneliness, doubt, and moments of deep reflection. The brilliance of his art was inseparable from the struggles that fueled it. Every falsetto, every lyric carried the echoes of late nights, personal sacrifices, and an unspoken desire for understanding beyond the applause. The legacy he leaves behind is multifaceted. He gave the world music that transcends time, songs that are sung across generations, and harmonies that instantly evoke emotion. But even more profound is the example he set for enduring challenges with resilience. At 61, when he finally admitted the truths many had long suspected, he demonstrated that vulnerability is not weakness, that acknowledging struggles can be an act of courage, and that even those who seem larger than life face human trials. His honesty added depth to his legend, reminding the world that true greatness lies not only in talent but in the courage to confront one's own humanity. Robin's life also leaves a lesson about connection. His music created an intimate bond with millions of fans worldwide, many of whom never met him but felt as though they understood his soul. When he revealed the private battles he had long carried, it was a profound moment of empathy and shared humanity. Fans could relate not only to the music but to the man behind it, a man who had struggled, doubted, and endured, yet continued to create beauty in the world. That emotional resonance is a rare and enduring gift, one that makes his story unforgettable. Even in his quiet moments, away from the cameras, Robin remained a storyteller. He shared not only melodies but also life lessons in subtle ways. The importance of resilience, the value of honesty, and the strength it takes to survive while under scrutiny. His confession at 61 was a culmination of decades of experience, showing that fame, while dazzling, carries costs that few understand. and that addressing those costs openly is a form of liberation. In revealing himself fully, he encouraged others to see beyond appearances and recognize the human experience hidden behind any public image. Looking back, Robin Gibb's journey reflects the duality of brilliance and struggle. He gave the world music that will live forever. But he also showed that even extraordinary talent does not exempt anyone from vulnerability. Every performance, every note, every interview was shaped by both triumph and challenge, and the authenticity of his voice came from that delicate balance. His life reminds us that strength is not the absence of struggle, but the ability to navigate it, transform it, and continue moving forward. Robin Gibb's legacy is therefore twofold: the timeless music he created, and the profoundly human example he left behind. For decades, fans admired the star, but now they can also admire the man, the one who endured fame's pressures, confronted personal demons, and, ultimately, embraced honesty and vulnerability. His story leaves an enduring impact, not only on the music industry but on anyone who has faced struggle in silence, teaching that resilience, honesty, and courage are as vital as talent. Through the highs of fame and the lows of private battles, Robin Gibb remains an emblem of perseverance and emotional truth. His voice continues to resonate across generations. But it is the story behind that voice, the years of endurance, the moments of doubt, the courage to admit the human truths that truly immortalizes him. In sharing both his triumphs and vulnerabilities, Robin gave the world more than music. He gave a lesson in humanity, a reminder that even icons carry unseen struggles, and that the act of facing them is, perhaps, the most extraordinary achievement of all.